Hey everyone, I hope we're all doing good today. Just had a quick shower thought, so it's going to transition to a quick video. I just had to get it out there. I want to talk about what I perceive is the difference between conditional and unconditional love. And I feel like we all know what it is. It's pretty simple. One love, conditional love, requires almost like steps to reach that level. Now those steps can vary, but generally speaking, I guess every single time speaking, you need to accomplish certain things, tasks, goals, whatever, we're just going to call them steps like I've said, to allow yourself and to allow the other thing, action or person or whatever it is, to love you back, right? That is conditional love. You have to get these conditions to work, and you have to get them all to mesh together to allow love to exist. Now, with unconditional love, there is a complete skipping of those steps, technically, and you just love them. There's no conditions. You are just loving them, the thing, or whatever it is, right? But here is my question, and there's two big ones that sprout from unconditional love and that conversation topic in general. The first one is the love a parent has for a child, right? Now, this love, I would say most of the times, is unconditional. There are times where it is conditional, but let's just go with the idea that this love, like baby comes out and the mother and the father, let's just put them both in there, love this child unconditionally. Me personally, with the definition I gave in terms of there being steps, I don't feel like it's possible to love a child in this instance without conditions, right? Now that sounds sketchy, like what do you mean by that? Let me explain. So let's say you were to be asked as the parent of a child, would you say you love your child unconditionally? I would say 9 out of 10 times, if not every single time, the parent would say, of course. Ever since this present has come into our lives, it's just been the best thing in the world, blah, 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 more sentiment, right? Now, that's great and all, and I love that. But with that same idea, wouldn't the condition be to love this entity, this, let's just say the son or daughter, would be for you to be their parent, right? That would be the condition. Since if you weren't their parent, you wouldn't love the son or daughter unconditionally, right? But then that can even stretch farther. You can see why this is a shower thought now. That can even stretch farther to, you don't have to be the parent. Like, you can be a relative or a close family member or even friend. It's like, okay, let's go with that. Now let's just say, my uncle, my uncle is having a child, blah, 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 child pops out, boom. Let's just say I have unconditional love for that child, right? Then wouldn't that be the same exact idea of, since this is family, that's the condition, that would make my love for it make sense, or love for them make sense, right? So it gets you thinking, like, okay, or it gets me thinking, at least. I don't know if anyone agrees with me. Not that it matters. But it gets me thinking about what is actual unconditional love? You know? How do you achieve unconditional love? And I even think in that question itself, it's flawed, because if I'm asking how do you achieve unconditional love, the answer would be conditions, which would then make it conditional love. And I ask all these questions, and I bring this up in general, just because I feel like conditional love gets so much like hate and disdain and dislike. Like, it's not inherently a bad thing. It's like the word consequences, right? The word consequences has a negative connotation, which means it's perceived in a bad light. But all consequences means is that there will be something that occurs because something happened, right? Cause and effect. The effect are essentially the consequences of an action. So, with that being said, it does come down to, why is conditional love looked down upon? Why is unconditional love almost always favored over conditional love? And why is conditional love perceived as not just a bad thing, but the worst thing, I think? Because I would say in almost all love situations, that love is conditional. You know, be it a girlfriend, a pet, a house, a hobby, a character. All these things require conditions, because for most of them, it's required that you like it first, and it takes steps to liking something, and then therefore, once you like something, you've taken steps so that if it leads to love, then there were conditions to lead to that point, right? So, is there a way to get unconditional love? Is there a way to bypass all steps and it's just existence love? Right? Like, you're not the parent, you're not this, you're not that. And then it gets into even further discussion and further question, because the other unconditional love that's brought up constantly and all the time is the unconditional love that God has for his children, right? Or basically everyone, right? His believers. But then again, it's the same idea as that, because when you get into it and you start thinking about it, all of God's people are reflections of God's self. So if you add these two together, if they're reflections of him, capital H, obviously, then that would just mean that he loves himself. And in order for him to love his children, he would have to love himself. Which means that there's the condition. And it's a cycle. It just keeps going on and going on and going on. There's always, I feel like, at least one condition to love. So I propose a nice, wonderful change in definition, which will not come true, and it will never happen. But who knows, maybe video will go viral and Webster would be like, that makes sense. I propose that unconditional love gets changed to limited conditional love. That being said, what that means is that it requires the bare minimum one condition to fulfill this love, right? Because realistically, you always, in these two scenarios, at least the most brought up ones, you needed one condition. With the parent, it was to be the parent, and then it's love. For God, it was for him to technically love himself, which then would stretch to him loving the parts of him that are recreations of the self, right? So I propose that it's called limited conditional love, and it just simply means that it only requires one condition to love. And then I will allow you to say that limited conditional love is better than just regular traditional conditional love. That's all I have to say about that. But let me know if I'm being weird, or if I'm being, there's a word for it, disrespectful. Let me know if I'm being disrespectful or whatever. It's just something I wanted to bring up. I think it's interesting, but I'll leave you guys with that. Anyways, peace.